Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 14 of the Unsung Heroes of the 2026 season. Huntington Bank Field, Cleveland, Ohio, was the site of round 14 of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship. A very chaotic, unpredictable round. Some wet weather rolled into the stadium. Thankfully, it didn't last too long, just during the afternoon portion of the event. Some fans braving the weather in the ponchos, in their raincoats. It was a great day of racing. Nonetheless, awesome to see Supercross and SMX in general in the state of Ohio once again. Ohio's first Supercross race, I believe, since 95. First SMX race, period, since the last Kenworthy's National in 2004. Welcome back to the circuit, Buckeye State. We are here to recap, as always, the top privateers from each class, 250 East class, and the 450 division. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know where to find us if you're a regular listener: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio. You can listen to this show on YouTube as well. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, post on your story, comment, follow our social media at the Stire Sound Official. Whatever it takes to help spread the word. We appreciate your support. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into things. We're going to kick things off this week with a rider who scored his career best finish in all of the chaos at Cleveland. He was fantastic all day, a great performance in the LCQ to get the victory after just missing out on the top 18 automatic transfer spots, and then 10, 10, 15 for 10th overall, first career top 10. Please welcome from Fort Dodge, Iowa, from the Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing crew, Izaih Clark to the Unsung Heroes. What's up, man? Congrats on the career best. I'm sure you're still stoked after that performance on Saturday.
Hey, dude. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it was sick. Like our first top 10, like East Coast is pretty stacked. I was pumped with it.
We'll go ahead and get into things. Obviously, the track was changing all day long. You start out in the morning, very dusty conditions, very windy as well. Some tough blocks were blowing around, dust clouds moving around. You win the LCQ after a great performance. Then, of course, you get into the afternoon program, usually the night show. But about 2 p.m., gate drop was about 3:05. 2 p.m., it started raining a little bit. Nothing too heavy, but it was pretty steady. It was coming down, starting to saturate the track. Take me through your day, how things unfolded, and also talk about how the conditions continued to change all day, because there were some races where it looked like the track was definitely wet, but nothing too sketchy. And then I know the second moto, it seemed like it poured a little bit more before that, and there was a bit more water on the track.
Yeah, like the day off, they started off like really dry, which I don't know. Like I feel like it was actually pretty good because I feel like most time it starts off like so wet that it's kind of hard to move around. I feel like you're able to move around pretty good. I mean, second qualifying, I jumped into a rider, little mishap, whatever, but ended up bending my rotor, so I had no front brake for that whole qualifying, and just wasn't able to put a time in without that front brake. So then I had to race the LCQ, but that went well. I feel like maybe that kind of lit a little match. Like figured out how to race the track a little bit, and then first main event was actually really good. Like it rained just a little bit. It was dry to begin with, so that little bit of extra moisture in there, like the track was sick. Like I feel like that was some of the best dirt. Second one, it started to rain. It was definitely wet, and then we had that red flag, and then after we got back on the track, it rained more, and it was super wet then. Like I think it was like just like that. I don't even know how you put it. Like just to the point where it was like slippery enough. Everything was sketchy, but everything was still doable. So like that's like always like a tough one. Like I almost wish it would like just downpour where we couldn't hit any jumps. But no, it was pretty good. Like and then it got pretty rough for the third one. Like it dried up, like it's quit raining as much, but the track was still pretty wet, and then a third one was gnarly.
You had a great performance, and overall pretty solid day for your crew as well. Luke Neese putting it in the show. The team's been performing pretty well this year. I know this is your second Supercross season with the Storm Lake program on their own, of course. Used to be merged in with the Tylube program, but things are going well for you guys. Luke got a top 10 earlier in the season, actually, I believe, at a Triple Crown at Indianapolis, and now here you are getting a top 10 as well. Talk about coming back and joining forces with the team. Obviously, last year Henry Miller was your teammate. Both of you guys were putting in solid results. Things have continued with a slightly different lineup, and I've talked to Luke Neese earlier in the season, and of course, Buddy Brooks, a longtime team owner in the series. He has plenty of experience helping guys get into that top 10 fight. Talk about your program this year with the Storm Lake crew and how you've continued to build all year and get results like this.
Yeah, it's been good. I've been with Storm Lake Honda, shoot, ever since I got on 250s when I was younger. Not necessarily with Buddy, but then with tied in with Storm Lake, and then once, so then Buddy came along and kind of helped me out quite a bit through the end of my amateur career, into my pro career, and yeah, it's been good. It's good to have like some good people in your corner that, they want the best for you, so they're always trying to help you out. You don't feel like there's any like underlining reasons they're trying to do stuff or whatever. That, it's all just purely to help you out. So it's super cool. Like the team, Dan, AJ, Buddy, like we have and like, and Luke, obviously, we have like a really good environment underneath the tent every weekend, and I feel like everyone wants the best for each other. So it's super sick. Like we're all just a bunch of homies hanging out, racing on the weekends, and trying our best.
One thing that I feel like has helped you improve over the last few years is your experience in arena cross. Of course, back in the day, we think of guys like Tyler Bowers and guys like that, Jacob Hayes, Kyle Riegel, all going over to win arena cross races. In the last few years, you have done that as well, whether it was the AMA series, the General Tire series. You have several arena cross wins under your belt, and it seems like after you really started racing arena cross full time, your supercross skills also seem to get better. Do you think there's a big correlation there with racing some of those tighter, high intensity tracks with getting better when you're under the bright lights at Supercross?
Oh, for sure. I definitely think like that stuff helps a lot. Racing is racing. Like, you can practice a set of whoops every day, but you go to race speed and race intensity, and you have to hit a set of whoops every 15 seconds. Like you're gonna figure it out really quick. I kind of grew up watching a lot of the arena cross stuff. Being from Fort Dodge, Iowa, we got Teddy Mayer, Gavin Fay, Justin Brayton, Chad Pedersen. Like those dudes all ripped arena cross, and especially growing up, like I was able to watch Gavin through a lot of his career in arena cross and watch him a lot and see what he did. And he was super good in arena cross. And I feel like growing up in that environment and watching everything just definitely helps.
It's funny that you mentioned Fort Dodge because I was also going to talk about that. For motocross hotbeds, a lot of people think, California, Florida, natural places like that. But Fort Dodge, Iowa, as you just mentioned, has produced a lot of main event talent over the years. Of course, Justin Brayton, the most famous name on that list, Daytona Supercross winner. Former other guys you mentioned, like Gavin Faith, won a bunch of arena cross races yourself. So many guys coming out of the Fort Dodge, Iowa area, and even the state of Iowa in general. What is it about Iowa that you think helps prepare some of these guys to go pro? Is there something in the water down there that really helps put you guys on the national level and sets you up for success?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know. It's not like we have any like a bunch of tracks around or anything like that. Like I guess the town I'm from, Fort Dodge, like we just had a bunch of dudes that just rode all the time. We ride in the woods. We wouldn't even necessarily ride tracks all the time, but we just like there's just always a lot of people that rode around there, and like a lot of people around there, I don't know, they're just gnarly. Like I don't, it's weird. Like we all just push each other like as kids and one up each other all the time, and I feel like you just kind of get that grit, and then like that's just kind of what I grew up around, and I don't know. Then I branched off and went to Oklahoma, and that doesn't leave your system, so just always want to improve and just get better all the time.
You mentioned Oklahoma there. Of course, Robbie Reynard, he's been at the highest level of racing. Now, as a trainer, you look at some of the guys over the years that have been through his program. I believe Austin Forkner was there at one point. I think Bogle, Colt Nichols. A lot of great and talented racers have come through his program. Now you're over there training with the folks. Talk a little bit about your training program because obviously everybody usually has their own methods and their own different situations, but How are things training at the Reynard compound, and what have you learned in the last few months being able to train with some of those folks over there?
Yeah, it's been really good. I just feel like it's like I don't know. They just around here, Rob just tells you like you don't worry about the equipment you got. Don't worry about what your gear looks like. Like just ride. You know what I mean? Like we're not really care about the looks or nothing. We're just out here just grinding. So I feel like that kind of goes a long way. I feel like some people kind of get caught up in the way their bike looks or the type of motor they got or whatever. Like so I think that's kind of cool to hear. It's like to be here and get around that. Like it's humbling and yeah, just put in the work. You get a ride with Colt pretty much every day. Justin, Benny, Kennard comes out here every once in a while, like on the weekdays, and does some riding with us, either Supercross or outdoors. And I just feel like there's some gnarly dudes around here.
It's a little hard to believe, but 2026 Supercross season is starting to draw to a close. This weekend is the final standalone 250 East round in Philadelphia. Rain or shine, whatever we're going to have there, it's the final round. It seems like we just got the season started at A1 or even Arlington for you East Coast guys. Looking back, how many highlights have you had from your season? Obviously, just coming off of a career best, but how would you grade your season to date? And what are your thoughts so far on 2026? Are you satisfied with what you've been able to accomplish so far this year?
I wouldn't say satisfied. I feel like I don't know, like it's one of those things. Like I'm a motocross racer. I'm never really satisfied. Um, But no, I like. There's been some good stuff. I think I kind of struggled beginning of the season. I got on the team bike a little bit late, so I just you know what I mean new bike, new motor, stuff like that. Like it just took me a minute to get used to it. So the beginning of the season kind of started off a little slow. It wasn't quite where I wanted to be. Um, but I definitely think I've been building every weekend and like really figured some stuff about the bike, like figure out what I need on race day and stuff like that. And for next year, I think if I can just continue this growth, I think it'll be good. I've had some small wins each round. Maybe not most people haven't seen, but that's something that the people that I have in my corner we talk about. So I definitely think there's been more steps in the right direction than other people or than the normal people have seen for me. So I think if I can just keep doing that, I'll keep building. It'll be good.
Of course, this weekend, like I mentioned, could be some rain in the forecast. And I know earlier when you were talking about Cleveland, you were saying that you hoped it was more like drenched racetrack so you could just roll around on things to where it was sketchy in the second moto. I don't know personally how much mud experience you have. I know obviously you would have been at Foxborough last year and all of the chaos and the soup that you could have in Gillette Stadium, but if we have a mud race this weekend, is that something you're looking forward to? I know that mindset is a huge deal usually when you go into mud races, but how much experience in the wet do you have in your career?
I feel like I've like a lot of the more muddy races I've done pretty well at. Like I guess Foxborough for me didn't go well at all last year, but like growing up, I've just amateur race. If it was muddy, I usually did pretty well. Get off the start, get a decent start, and then you can just stay up. Works out pretty well. But I don't know. I feel like I don't ever have a negative thought on the mud. Like everyone's got to ride it. I'm just gonna go out there and do my best.
The season's coming to a close, obviously, but now AMA Pro Motocross Championship coming up. You were at most of the rounds last year with the Tylube team. Now Storm Lake, it seems like traditionally what we think of as a Supercross only operation, and sometimes Arena Cross as well. But it seems like they're starting to expand into the Pro Motocross ranks. Of course, your significant other, Kylie Stallings, just signing with the team. She's going to be competing in the WMX series and really in the fight. Of course, she is insane off the start. Sure, she's going to rip some hole shots out there, but are we going to see the Storm Lake crew expand into a full outdoor operation in addition to their 250 East season?
I'm not sure yet. I've talked to him about it. I would like to. You know, Obviously, Kylie's gonna be racing some, so we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what they want to do. I know we'll hit a select few, but I'd like to hit. I'd like to hit a quite few. I enjoy the outdoor grind, so we'll kind of see. It's just I know it's hard as it's for a team to do that. The outdoors are pretty gnarly, especially on a 250. So I'm sure that they'll work something out though.
As far as the outdoors go, I know you have some success at Redbud and points scored in there in the past. Is there a certain track that you really look forward to every year? I know, and going to Iowa, you're kind of in the middle and you don't really have a home track necessarily for the Nationals, but what track do you really look forward to going every summer?
Oh, I'd have to say Millville. Like Millville is one of like my home race. I would consider it's like 3.5 hours from my hometown. I grew up racing there. Like I would do their little super series they had going on there, and so yeah, I just know a lot of people from the Minnesota area. A lot of people from Iowa go to that one, and that track is sick too. Like I just think that's definitely got to be my favorite one.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Izaih Clark on episode number 14 of the 2026 Unsung Heroes career best finish at the Cleveland Supercross. Before we wrap things up, go ahead and thank some of your sponsors and the people supporting your program this year. Of course, the Storm Lake Honda crew have been helping you out big time. Go ahead and give some love to those who are helping you get to the track each and every weekend.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Sun Lake Honda, Buddy Brooks, FXR, my friends, my family, everyone helped me out. Robbie Raynard staying in my corner. All the kids I train with. It's fun. We all hype each other up, and yeah, can't thank everybody enough.
Isaiah, thank you for the time. Best of luck this weekend in Philly and throughout the rest of 2026.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Izaih Clark for his time on this week's edition of the Unsung Heroes. Now we're going to go ahead and get into things from the rest of the 250 East division. To no one's surprise, it was the Club MX Yamaha duo leading the way in the 250 East division. It's like saying the grass is green or the sky is blue. Cody Schock, Devin Simonson finishing together 6th place and 7th place overall. The top two non factory racers once again. And there were some hiccups during the day, but overall solid days from both. Cody Schock, 6.77 were his moto scores. Unfortunately, tipped over pretty early in the second moto. He was solid. He was just right there behind that first group. Guys like Thrasher, Gordon, Davies, Hammaker. He was right outside of that range most of the day. So was his teammate Devin Simonson. Simonson probably would have been 6th if it wasn't for a rough crash in the first race. He was lucky to be okay from it. There was the triple in before the gap double, ordinarily, which would be the Supercross triple on the, I believe, west side of the stadium. I could be wrong. But either way, Simonson went to triple in, goes OTB, hits the ground pretty hard. But thankfully, Devin was okay, got back up, charged back to 12th after dropping pretty much to the rear of the field. And then he was really solid, really fast in those other motos. He was shadowing the factory guys that he was racing around. Devin, thankfully, all right. Not quite a podium like he was able to accomplish in Nashville, but still some speed and some great momentum for the Club MX Yamaha boys. 6.5 in the final two motos for Simonson. Then, just behind the two Club MX teammates, you had a pair of the MX6 Racing Kawasaki teammates. Derek Kelly, top 10 finish, his second of the year, 10th of his career, and a season best 8th place effort, 8.8.10. He was also kind of right there. You had the front guys and the Club MX guys, and then it was Derek Kelly, and then it was everybody else seemingly throughout the day. The final race, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Kelly 8th once again, but he had some issues. Marcus Phelps went down in front of him, and Derek clipped his bike, went down very briefly, got back up pretty quickly. But top 10s in all three motos, and overall, Derek's best ride of the season. Great performance by the number 77. One spot behind him, Henry Miller, a little bit all over the place, and we're going to see some wild scores throughout the day in every single class. But Henry Miller able to claim ninth with 11, 16, 8 scores. And man, I was worried about Henry early on because in the first qualifying session, he hit the ground pretty hard, took a tumble through the whoops. Even though they were a bit smaller in height, they were spaced out pretty far and they were catching guys out. Of course, Eli Tomac had his heavy crash there. Henry Miller had a crash there. A few other guys throughout the day, whether it was qualifying, LCQ, races during the afternoon, Lots of whoop crashes, but Henry got up a little bit slowly, but he was all right. He was ready to roll back in the action, and he was solid, pretty quiet throughout the day. But the 16th came in a bit of a collision. Gavin Towers, Luke Neese also involved in it. But Henry Miller, along with Cody Schock, who finished a little bit further up the order, as we mentioned, both of those guys are in position to tie their career best points finishes in 250 Supercross. Schock, currently fourth, which was his best in 2024. Henry Miller looking to tie that eighth place finish in last year's 250 East Series. And who knows? Maybe Miller continues the momentum and scores enough points to leapfrog Joe Shimoda and maybe score a career best once again. Speaking of career best, Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing's Izaih Clark, first career AMA Supercross top 10 for the Fort Dodge, Iowa native. Of course, we heard from Clark a little bit earlier in the episode. Thanks to him once again for joining us. Career best top 10 finish. Let's see if he can back it up this weekend in Philadelphia. Moving to 12th and 13th overall, you'll find a pair of Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki teammates. Kyle Peters, the 5-time Arena Cross champion, in 12th. The Australian Luke Clout in 13th. Some ups and downs for each guy. Once again, of course, Peters racing with a torn meniscus. 17-15, not great to start the day, but he ended the afternoon with a ninth place run and a really solid ride in the final moto, surviving some of the chaos out there. Clout was very frustrated at the end of the first race. He made a mistake in that long back rhythm lane just before the whoops went down, was frustrated. You could see him kind of punching the air a little bit, not sure what exactly he was doing, but Clout came up short or something. I don't remember the crash fully, but I remember him getting up, being pretty angry at the mistake. He was 21st in that first moto, but came back for 11th later in the day and claimed 13th overall for the second week in a row. Just behind them, 14th position overall, the sophomore for Phoenix Racing Honda, Gavin Towers, the Pennsylvania native, heading back to his home state, albeit he's a little closer to Pittsburgh than Philadelphia, but a home state race this weekend coming up for Towers. He was the guy who had that final transfer spot. He bumped Nick Romano with about 3 minutes left in that final session with a solid lap time to jump into the main event. I mentioned a couple minutes ago with Henry Miller and Luke Neese, he had a crash, went down pretty hard, was left 20th in that second race, but apart from that race, he was 13th in the other two. Continues to put laps under his belt, still getting back to 100% with his shoulder injury. 15th overall, the final MX6 Racing Kawasaki competitor, Marshall Welton. Not a very good day in qualifying for Marsh. Struggled a bit. 26th out of 38. Not the usual pace we're used to seeing out of Marshall, but he worked his way into the afternoon program via the LCQ. 18, 14, 14 were his race finishes. 15th overall, the end result for the number 65. In 16th position, speaking of returning to the main event, John Short on the number 90, backed by Dallas Honda. Of course, John Short, he's competing on his own, but this weekend he actually pitted with the Storm Lake Honda crew. They helped him out a bit this weekend, and he was strong in qualifying. 7th place overall, top 10 qualifying effort, probably one of the best of John's career. Had a 12th place, his best result of the day in race 2, 16th place at the end of the day overall for John on the number 90. And just behind him, a guy who he was sharing an awning with, Luke Neese in 17th. I've talked about the bad crash a couple times now, but he had some other solid races. 17th, walked away from the day with some positives. Finishing 18th overall aboard his Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot KTM, Marcus Phelps making his first career Triple Crown start. The South African, up and down day, but plenty of positives to take away. 14th in qualifying, went directly into the motos, which was an awesome performance from Phelps. He's a great starter, man. I was watching that 250B practice. fake start, and he was probably a full bike length ahead of everybody else, and his starting ability helped him out in the main events as well. 13th was his best individual race result of the evening, a solid ride in the second race, and he started inside the top 10, was running about 7th in the final moto, but unfortunately, I don't know if he hit a bump or something, but his bike kicked forward, sent him to the ground pretty hard, and he was definitely hurting in that last main event. Ended up claiming 19th in that one, 18th overall, but a solid weekend regardless for Marcus. He should be back in Philadelphia this weekend. And I'll give a shout out to the full Dirt Bike Depot team. They provided some great hospitality for my family this weekend who were there as DBD VIPs. I recommend the program. If you are big fans of Supercross, they were taking care of my people, hooked them up with some merch, some great experiences. They were a great, friendly crew to my team. Of course, Jack Noel, my co host on the Stire Sound podcast, I have pretty solid relationships with all of the Dirt Bike Depot crew. Great to see them back in the main events again. Second week in a row for Marcus. Behind him in the 19th position was Jeremy Hand, one of the local boys from Ohio. Valley Automotive Group backing Jeremy on a number 87. He was a little banged up, had a bit of a hand injury, no pun intended, from his collision with Derek Kelly in Nashville, but Jeremy toughed it out. 15, 17, 20 scores, 19th overall. Probably not the finishes he wanted, but he got to race in front of friends and family about 30 minutes from home. Probably a dream come true for the Ohio boy. Then your final couple of finishers in the 250 class. You had CJ Bernard back in the main event for the third time this season, the rookie competing aboard a Gizmo Racing Yamaha. Bernard had pretty consistent scores, 19, 19, 17, but the amount of fluctuation left him in 21st overall. Great qualifying performance, though, from Bernard, 11th overall in the morning sessions. So CJ was really at home in those dry conditions. Of course, he's a West Coast boy from Arizona, so they may have suited him pretty well compared to some of the other East Coast offerings. And behind him, we talked to him a couple weeks ago, Luca Marsalisi back in the main event aboard his Triumph of Harrisonburg machine. The Hitman, also strong in qualifying, went straight into the motos from the 250B session. 22, 18, 16 for 22nd. Another guy who probably got the short end of the stick in moto math with some of the fluctuation, but great for Luca to put her back in. And I'm not sure if this is his first Triple Crown or not, but I know it's his first Triple Crown start of the season with those Triumph of Harrisonburg boys as they continue to build the program. Now, a couple quick notes from outside the main event. Hayes Edwards, shout out to the rookie from the EBR Performance Family Power Sports Yamaha team. He was one spot shy of the main event, but man, he gave it a lot of fight, a lot of heart shown in the LCQ from the number 146. And if he was just a little bit closer to Nick Romano, I think he could have made the pass in the T-bone stick. He went for it. He was just a little bit short. He was a little bit too far back to really make the move stick. But Edwards getting closer to his first career main event. Of course, teammate Landon Hartz has a few starts under his belt this season. Then Ryder Floyd wasn't able to make the main event this week, but on Friday, it seemed like from the Tyloo Honda Racing camp, seemed like Floyd might not be able to race at all. They were having bike issues, problems with his machine. His Honda was not working. They did not have a spare bike with him. But luckily, 450 privateer Preston Taylor stepped up in a time of need. Taylor, of course, like I mentioned, racing a Kawasaki KX 450 at the moment. He did have a 250 with him and allowed Ryder Floyd to race it for the weekend. Floyd wasn't able to put it in the main, but it was a completely brand new bike, not his own machine, obviously. And Floyd, a guy used to Honda machinery, Kawasaki, probably a big change, but awesome to see some sportsmanship there. Preston Taylor helping out a fellow privateer in need and helping Ryder Floyd get on the gate on Saturday. Now moving on into the 450 class, and once again, Quad Lock Honda's Joey Savacci was the top performer of the non-factory ranks. It was a great afternoon for Joey. Like the Club MX guys, he was just right outside of that range of factory guys, up there consistently every single moto. But he put together a great day. 6.76 for fifth overall. Another top five for Joey. He's just become a top five, top 10 machine this season. And he's on track to score his best career points finish ever in 450 Supercross. He was eighth his rookie season in 2019. Right now, he's sitting seventh in points. How about Justin Hill? Another great ride to conclude the day for the Monster Energy Team Tedder KTM rider. 10, 11 in the first two motos, the 11th partially due to hitting the gate off the start and being mired in the back of the pack. But the final moto, a third place finish. Hill said in the post race press conference that he was steadily unlocking lines all day long, and he was gaining about 3 seconds a lap on Chase Sexton the last couple of circuits. Then, right after the gap double, you had the little short shoot rhythm lane before the long rhythm lane in the whoops, and Hill jumped to the inside of it, caught Sexton by surprise, ran him wide, and just took off. And actually, in that big rhythm lane in the final 450 race, Hill set the best sector time of that race on the final lap when the track was at its worst. Hill was performing incredibly well, and of course, he's very happy to have their recent success and to have the support of Team Tedder. It's really a match between those two parties. The Hill Tedder connection has been strong the last few years. Year number 4 now of that combo. A few spots behind those guys, you had the other Quad Lock Honda fellas. Shane McElrath led the rest of the group. He was back in the top 10 once again, his fourth top 10 since the return from the off weekend. Shane was fifth in that final race. He also put together a great ride in that final race, kind of on his own. He was ahead of his teammate Joey Savacci, and he was riding really well. Props to Shane for that final race performance. Then 12th and 13th overall, Dean Wilson and Christian Craig. Dino ended the afternoon with his best effort, a ninth place finish. Christian Craig, 13, 10, 11, nothing too flashy there, but a top 15 finish nonetheless. A few spots behind them, 16th place, still 14 for 14. Vince Freezy on the ISRT Kawasaki. He was the top performer of 4 Kawasaki privateers in the 450 main event. Vince continuing to keep his perfect streak alive. The two racers behind him also on Kawasaki's. He was followed by the two Partzilla Blaster Power Rocket PRMX Kawasaki riders on the 450s. Cade Clayson with a solid run, 19, 17, 17 for 17th overall. Clayson, another Ohio boy in the field. Great to see him be able to finish the night out. His first two main event starts this season ended early. Of course, the Triple Crown in Houston, he went down, broke his collarbone. Then he had some kind of issue as well when he qualified at Birmingham. But finally, Cade getting to complete a full night, a little bit more of what we're used to from the number 784. And behind him, his teammate Money Mitch was back in the show, qualified 17th to put her in. 18th overall for Mitchell. He was 16th in the two motos he competed in, but unfortunately, he was a DNS/DNF, whatever you want to consider him, for the second moto. He had his bike on the gate, but they pushed it away, some kind of issue. Thankfully for Mitchell, they got things ready to go later in the afternoon. 19th position, you had Freddie Noren on the Gizmo Racing Yamaha, and boy, Freddie was trying to make things hard on himself throughout the day. He crashed 3 times in the whoops. I witnessed them all, and it seemed like they were all in the same spot. He would just start hooking right and then crash into the tough blocks. But thankfully for Freddie, he was all right, walked away with a 19th place finish. Very eventful weekend for the Swede. Then behind them, Tristan Lane, who took up Vince Freezy's slack in the penalty department this weekend. Tristan Lane got docked 2 spots in the LCQ. He was the original LCQ winner, but actually jumped on the Red Cross flag while his teammate Scott Meshy was down. This drew the ire of the AMA officials. They docked him 2 spots. That gave the LCQ win to Freddie Noren instead. Then in the final main, Grant Harlan aboard his KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM machine runs Tristan a bit wide, aggressive pass, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Then all of a sudden, Lane came back in and smoked him, sent him flying over the berm. Harlan went down, immediately threw his hands up, and he was not happy, and rightfully so. Tristan claimed 20th overall and 2 points originally, but because of that aggressive riding, the folks at the AMA were not happy at all and gave Tristan a 5 point penalty, so he walked away from Cleveland, losing 3 points. Harlan finished 21st overall. Not a great weekend, but good for Harlan to get back into the main event picture. Of course, it doesn't help when somebody's sending you over the berm for the number 62. But Harlan, the lone representative for the Champion Tool Storage KTM crew, Kevin Moran's not able to make the main event this weekend. And your final main event participant, first career 450 main event for Pennsylvania privateer Vinny Lahovey from Greensburg on the Mosites Motorsports Kawasaki, doing things on his own. He was in some Cleveland Browns gear, which had to be weird for, I'm assuming, a Steelers fan. He, of course, wore Steelers gear last year at Acrisure Stadium. But Vinny putting it into the 450 main event for the first time in his career. He had a solid LCQ ride, kept things poised, had a bit of style over the finish line to celebrate making the main event. Congrats to Vinny. Unfortunately, he didn't walk away with a point to show for it, but he was able to finally qualify for a 450 main event. He has some 250 starts under his belt. He's done some of each class this year, and now he made a main event in the 450 class. Congrats to Vinny, the number 437, for putting it in the show. And that about does it for our episode this weekend. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Of course, a big thank you to Storm Lake Honda, Buddy Brooks Racing's Izaih Clark for appearing on the show this week. Go follow him on Instagram at Izaih Clark. Hopefully, we can see more results, more top 10 finishes from Izaih this weekend in Philadelphia. We appreciate your support. We hope you enjoyed the Cleveland Supercross. If you're there, we hope you stayed dry. Philadelphia coming up this weekend, the final standalone East Coast round. Of course, Denver and Salt Lake City to follow. 3 rounds left, still a lot of racing to go. Thank you so much for listening. I am Trey Stire, your host. We will see you after round number 15, and we hope you continue enjoying this show and spreading the love. Have a great week, everybody.